Now here are 10 surprising facts about Laudato Si. What do I mean by this? I mean, the encyclical would already have been quite amazing as it was, talking about, basic science, and then talking about the ethics and the biblical and the spiritual, and that would have been great. But here are 10 things that just make the encyclical extraordinary. First of all, dialogue with science. Just try to find another church document that bases its ethics on scientific observations and conclusions. You just don't find that. And I mean, there are lots of documents that could be inspired by psychology, sociology, but, doesn't turn towards science very often. But when it comes to this encyclical, that's just amazing. A full chapter has to do with the scientific consensus. Interesting fact that not many people know about is that there is the Pontifical Academy of Sciences on Vatican grounds. A few people work there, and they coordinate, and then once a year there's a meeting with top scientists from all around the world. Some are Catholic, some are not, and they're invited for this type of dialogue, which is very fruitful, and also means that the mistakes done with Galileo a long time ago are not repeated, because the church is sensitive to science. This picture was taken a few days after Laudato Si. I just had the chance, I was very fortunate to be able to go to Rome and celebrate with 150 young persons involved in religion and environment. And so the young woman you see there with me, it's not the best picture of me, to be honest, with my Canada cap like that and the sun and everything. Anyway, but this young woman who's very smiley, she's a Hindu from England, and she's involved in environmental matters as well. But I just loved the banner. That's why I'm showing you this picture. It says, "Faith and science are united on climate change." I thought that said it all. And that's, the dialogue that's really intended with Laudato Si. Second surprising fact is ecumenical dialogue. The Pope Francis actually puts 3 quotes from Patriarch Bartholomew, but he goes even further. He says this: "The beloved ecumenical Patriarch Bartholomew, with whom we share the hope of full ecclesial communion." Okay, wow. The encyclical is about integral ecology. It's about, how ethically we have to take care of the environment. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, he's talking about the ecumenical patriarch, Bartholomew, who is in Constantinople, or Istanbul, and is the spokesperson, is the first among equals of all the Orthodox patriarchs. And so Pope Francis is saying this: let's take care of the environment, the Church of the East, the Church of the West. Let's take care of the environment together. Oh, and by the way, reunification would be nice too. So quite amazing that he just puts that in there. There are 5 quotes from Romano Guardini. He was a theologian and philosopher, and his quotes come from a major book he wrote called The End of the Modern World. It just so happens he was the liturgy professor of Joseph Ratzinger, who became Pope Benedict. Usually an encyclical or other high church documents like that, they quote other popes, and they quote important church documents, but they don't quote philosophers, and they don't quote, others that you'll see. So that was quite surprising, and his quotes really have a huge impact in the encyclical. There's an indirect reference to Teilhard de Chardin. That's surprising fact number 4. So here's the quote. All creatures are moving forward with us and through us toward a common point of arrival, which is God, in that transcendent fullness where the risen Christ embraces and illuminates all things. A bit mystical what's written right there. Now, Teilhard de Chardin was very much inspired by lots of the writings by Paul, but also Book of Revelation, where Jesus presents himself as being the Alpha and the Omega. Now, Alpha means the origin of things, and then the Omega means the point of arrival of all things. And Teilhard de Chardin understood, as a biologist, the theory of evolution, and he thought, wow, okay, well, what if Christ is at the beginning of life, the Alpha, things diversify with time, but then, as time will go on in front of us, we will be going towards Christ again, who's the Omega point, who's the end point. And it also says right there that the risen Christ embraces and illuminates all things. So the risen Christ is this creature fully evolved and the end of all things. It has the fullness. So obviously this quote, this passage from Laudato Si is a reference to Teilhard de Chardin and the theology. And why is it so surprising? Well, in 1962, the Holy Office did not accept the writings of Teilhard de Chardin and wrote this. It is sufficiently clear that the above-mentioned works abound in such ambiguities and indeed even serious errors as to offend Catholic doctrine. So, 1962, it was put on the index, and then 1981, again, it was reaffirmed. But in 2015, some of his insights are now included in Laudato Si. Surprising facts, Laudato Si number 5, an indirect reference to Leonard Duboff. He is a theologian in South America, and he's the father of theology of liberation. And you can see one of his books right here, Ecologia, Grito da Terra, Grito dos Pobres. And so that's the cry of the earth and the cry of the poor. That's the title of his book. That's what he's known for linking social problems and environmental problems and being able to say that, they have these common root problems. And so here's paragraph 49. Today, however, we have to realize that a true ecological approach always becomes a social approach. It must integrate questions of justice in debates on the environment so as to hear both the cry of the earth and the cry of the poor. So, it's an indirect reference to Leonard Duboff, who is still not fully accepted, but his ideas have migrated up unto Laudato Si. Okay, surprising fact number 6 is that the encyclical thanks ecologists. Here's a nice passage. The worldwide ecological movement has already made considerable progress and led to the establishment of numerous organizations committed to raising awareness of these challenges. So we're not, the church is not in the habit of thanking ecologists. Here is June 19th, 2015, where in my diocese, Saint-Jean-Longueuil, near Montreal, there was a press conference to celebrate Laudato Si being published. I'm in the back there with my green shirt. Then right next to me in orange is a meteorologist, so someone who was there to talk about climate change and show this dialogue between science and religion. Then you have a man with a big arrow. It's written Équiterre. Équiterre is kind of the David Suzuki Sierra Club type organization in Quebec. It's very, very strong. It's the most renowned environmental group, very respected. So he's the executive director, and he's sitting right next to the bishop, Monseigneur Gendron, Bishop Gendron, who was the Bishop of Saint-Jean-Longueuil, and he thanked the ecologists for everything they've done in the past decades. And that was just beautiful. It was beautiful to hear. Also, I love this quote about young persons getting involved. Young people have a new ecological sensitivity and a generous spirit, and some of them are making admirable efforts to protect the environment. Surprising fact number 7 is a quote from the Earth Summit. Now, in Rio 1992, there was a declaration about environment and development, so this is quoted in the encyclical. Read this. The Rio Declaration of 1992 states that where there are threats of serious or irreversible damage, lack of full scientific certainty shall not be used as a pretext for postponing cost-effective measures. So that is a very powerful statement, and to have it from 1992 at Rio to be restated in the encyclical, that's a big deal. Now the other one here, it's funny because the Earth Charter exists. It's kind of like the Charter of Human Rights, at least it's a draft of it. But I've never used it in my presentations. It's not something I really go to. But in the encyclical, we included a quote from it. And it's actually a really nice quote too. Listen to this. Let ours be a time remembered for the awakening of a new reverence for life, the firm resolve to achieve sustainability, the quickening of the struggle for justice and peace, and the joyful celebration of life. Wow, that almost sounds like something that comes from a gospel. So, amazing quote from the Earth Charter. Surprising fact number 9 is the fact that the Pope decided to quote from 20 Episcopal conferences. So, rather than doing what popes usually do, is, taking decisions, decrees, and also writing statements, and then imposing those statements on the world. Now he's taking the voices from the different bishops all around the world and included them in the encyclical. It's a great way of collegiality, of working with the others. He's a real leader. And number 10 of the surprising facts from Laudato Si is a quote from a Muslim. And so his name is Ali Al-Khawass. He is a Sufi, so a Muslim mystic. And just to go in the context, in paragraph 233, it talks about the immanence of God, and the fact that when we stop and listen and pray, we can listen to the world and hear it differently, and start understanding it. And then in the paragraph 233, it talks about Saint Bonaventure, who was one of the disciples of Saint Francis of Assisi. But then there's also a note, And when we go read the note at the bottom of the page, it's a big note. And here's the quote. There is a subtle mystery in each of the movements and sounds of this world. The initiate will capture what is being said when the wind blows, the trees sway, water flows, flies buzz, doors creak, birds sing, or in the sound of strings or flutes, the sights of the sick, the groans of the afflicted. So these were 10 surprising facts from Laudato Si.